What's up everybody, it's Jay here, and today I'm going to talk about top surgery. I am 2 years post-op now. I had top surgery on the 12th of July 2018 with Dr. Garramone in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yes, I did travel all the way from Ireland to Florida to have top surgery. Yes, it was expensive. Um, the summary of this video is I am extremely happy with my top surgery results, but I'm going to go a bit more in depth about how I feel about the appearance of my results, how I feel about, the sensation, scarring, all that kind of stuff. So, without further ado, let's crack into it. So, appearance is definitely one of the big things that people think about when they go into top surgery, especially since for a lot of people it costs a lot of money, and it's something they just want to get done and they want to be able to kind of go on and feel good about themselves. So, it's understandable that appearance is a big factor for people. Everybody has different standards of what they want from their top surgery, of how they want to look. For me personally, having scars wasn't something that would make me feel bad about my result, which is kind of why, even though I do clearly have double incision scars, I don't have any kind of problem with that. It's all about what you want, and it's about, what is kind of your goal. I have friends who, if they had scarring like mine, wouldn't feel good about their results and prefer lower scarring options, and that's totally fine. But on what I wanted, I am honestly extremely happy with my results. Like, my nipples are in a place that makes sense. Um, my scars are very symmetrical. Like, okay, they go quite far back, like they end about here and about here, but they're very symmetrical. Over the last 2 years, my scars have faded quite a bit. As you can see, they faded a lot more, like from the nipple outward, than they have in the center. I could not explain to you why that actually is. I know it's not a big deal, and it definitely doesn't bother me, especially since like most of my chest hair is in the middle, so it's kind of distracted from the like more intense scarring. Like, even it's not just that it's lighter, it's also more raised in the center, whereas it's flat going backwards to there. So appearance wise, I'm very happy. One of the things that kind of is notable is I'm not a skinny dude. I wasn't a skinny dude when I had top surgery either. But certainly over time, like, my body fat has kind of redistributed itself a little bit more. Like, you're never going to be in a position where you're just going to regrow tits. But the reality is that, like, a man my weight, a cis man my weight, would have a heavier chest than I have. That would be the norm for a cis man of my weight. So when I had top surgery, I was probably flatter than most cis men of my weight would have been. Most cis men who were like my weight and size would have had man boobs per se. So I end up being flatter probably than most people my size would have been. And then over the last 2 years, it's become a little bit more natural looking. Like, you can see when I move my arms, I have a jiggle, but I'm not like, I'm still flat chested. You get me? So I'm overall extremely happy with like the visual results that I have. The aesthetic and appearance is 100% satisfactory to me. So something that not everybody cares about, but is definitely a factor for many people, is nipple sensation. I did not care all that much, frankly, about nipple sensation. It wasn't high on my list of priorities, frankly. If I had none, I would also be fine with it. But I am grateful for the fact that I don't have none. Like, it wouldn't bother me to have none, but it is interesting to see the fact that I do have nipple sensation. What I will say is it's very distinctly different than it was before I had top surgery. Like, I remember what nipple sensation was like before top surgery. It's not the same. I would say that the area like around the nipple, the areola area, is very dulled sensation. Like, I can tell, I can feel it, but it's not very strong in terms of how well you would feel it. It doesn't feel the same way as like rubbing my own skin feels, rubbing the rest of my skin. It doesn't feel the same, which is kind of unusual for like a nipple. And then definitely like the nipple itself in the center has a lot more feeling than the area around it. Um, on this side, this is my worst nipple. It's like lopsided and it has significantly less sensation than the other one. Um, One of the things that I found unusual about like nipple sensation is that when I stretch on a cold day, sometimes my nipples feel tight. And I will talk about a lot a bit more later, but like definitely over the course of the 2 years while I was like slowly and surely like healing and healing and healing. The sensation has been different. Like in the first year, I definitely say I got a lot of weird feelings in my nipples. I definitely think that coldness has something to do with it, not being warm. I would definitely say that, like, my nipples don't feel great when I'm freezing cold. That there's kind of like not a soreness, but kind of like a tension there. And I think it's kind of like, how your body feels like shit when you don't warm up before you exercise. If I'm cold, like, it's not pleasant, basically. So, in terms of the scarring specifically, I wanted to mention, because my scars don't meet in the middle, first of all. It's not super easy to see that because I do have a hairy chest. But my scars do not meet in the middle. They go from about here on each side all the way back to under my armpit. As I said, I'm a relatively heavy dude and I didn't have a small chest. So it made sense that my scar goes so far back in order to make sure that I don't have any dog ears, which thankfully I don't have. Um, in terms of like the scarring, I think that like I've definitely seen some people who seem to have more kind of scarring around their nipples. I think my nipples look very natural, even if they're slightly wonky. But that's because normal, like average people are wonky. That's not to say I'm not normal, but you know what I mean. That like people who haven't had top surgery also have wonky bodies. That's normal. That's average. One of the things that I noticed with like the scars is similar to the nipples. Stretching, especially when cold, can sometimes feel very tight and very tense. And definitely that was worse in the first year after I'd had top surgery. But in the last year, it's still there. It's just not quite as bad. And like initially when I had top surgery first, and I was feeling kind of like, oh, that's weird. I don't like that. And now I'm just kind of used to it. I'm just kind of like, okay, if that's unpleasant, then I should not do it. And the thing that's kind of confusing about it is the fact that um, like it comes and goes. Like it's not always there. Like if I was to do this right now, it doesn't matter. But if I was to do it like when I'm cold or something like that, it might. So it's a bit unpredictable. The last thing I kind of wanted to mention was stretch marks, because before I had top surgery, I had like red stretch marks similar to the ones I have on my shoulders on my chest. And as you can see, I don't have those on my chest anymore, but I do have a different kind of stretch mark on my chest. When I raise my arm, you can see that there are these white kind of textured lines along my chest, and those are stretch marks as well. And they're different. Effectively, like all of the parts of my like chest that had those red stretch marks on them were removed when I had top surgery. So that skin was no longer used. But that meant that the stretch marks that were kind of higher up on my chest before I had surgery are still there. There's kind of, you can't really avoid that. If you happen to have stretch marks on your body already, like that's kind of hard to avoid. And I was not expecting to not have any of those red stretch marks. I kind of assumed that they would still be there. I'm thankful that they're not, because like I think that it would look slightly odd given the way your body grows. It would look a bit unusual, but that's just for my own taste kind of thing. But I do still have them, and I think it's important to note that like if you have kind of any kind of like stretch marks or kind of like discoloration or something like that on your skin that you don't particularly like, it might still be there after you have top surgery, because it might be on parts of your skin that will still be used. It might not still be there, but it might be, and that's worth considering. Last but not least, I'm just going to talk briefly about my actual top surgery experience that I had, because I think that it's very relevant, because not only do you want good results, but you want to feel like you're being taken care of in the moment while it's happening. You want to have a positive experience. And I do feel like my experience of having top surgery was very positive. I think that is in part due to the fact that I found healing quite easy. By the time I came home at a week post-op, I felt fine, pretty much. I, for the most part, took care of my own scarring and my own like wound care when I came home. I didn't really need much help in that respect. I remember, before I had top surgery, loads of my friends were like, "Oh, when you come home, like I'll come over and visit you." Like I didn't need that because I could just go out and see them, And I know that that's not the case for everyone. Loads of people like have a hard time recovering. I just didn't, and that's my experience, you know. Um, so that definitely helped with my experience to make it very positive. But I also feel like all of the staff that I encountered while I was having top surgery were very kind, very caring, very supportive, very positive, and I had a very good experience in that respect. I didn't interact with anybody who I didn't like while I was having top surgery. I think that, you know, they have a high level of respect for the fact that the experience that I was having was life changing, you know? And I think that obviously that's a hard thing to do when, you know, if you're a doctor or a nurse and you work with people every day who you provide this kind of life changing thing. It can be hard, I think, to see it as how kind of like sacred isn't the word, but kind of like how important and monumental that can be for the other person, because for you it's your everyday, it's what you do all the time. So I felt like I was very I was very happy with how kind of they all understood how monumental it was, and they all kind of respected how monumental it was, and the fact that like what is every day to them was a huge deal to me. I also feel like one of the things that I wish I had known before I had top surgery was the fact that in the surgical center that I was in for my surgery, they like semi sedate you before they bring you to the surgery room, right? So like they put you on a drip before you go in, and there's something in it. I don't know what it is, but there's something in it, and it kind of calms you. And like I knew that it must have been it. There must have been something in it because like I far too anxious a person. I think I would have flipped. I don't think I would have had the composure that I had going into surgery if there wasn't something in it. So it was definitely a relief because that's kind of the thing that I would be worried about. You know, that would freak me out. Um, and everybody was considerate of the fact that like there were things that freaked me out. Like I don't like needles, and I was in a hospital, so everybody was very considerate of that. And just I don't have a bad thing to say about my experience of having top surgery. I just don't have a bad thing to say because I had a positive experience. You know, I felt that everybody who I interacted with, who provided that service for me, was extremely polite, was very supportive, was very kind, was very helpful. I had a good experience healing. I felt that I got all the support that I needed from Garramone and the surgical centre. Yes, it was expensive, and I can't downplay that really. It did cost a lot of money, and I'm sure there are many people out there who would feel like it was not worth the money. For me, it was worth the money because I was kind of in this mindset of like, I only get to do this once. I want to do it correctly. I want to do it the way I want to do it. I don't want to be, you know, 10 years down the line regretting the fact that I didn't go with the surgeon I actually wanted. And, you know, obviously, again, I can't downplay that, but part of that is that my parents were willing to fund the fact that I was having top surgery. So there is kind of an extra layer to that. It's not that simple for other people, and I get that. But I do think that, like, if at all possible, it's worth going for the person that you really want. It's worth going for the surgeon that you really want, because I think I would have regretted going with a different surgeon now because I'm so happy like with the results that I have, and I think I would have regretted going to someone who wasn't the surgeon I wanted. So that's all about my 2 years post-op. If you like the video, please do click the like button down below. Feel free to ask any questions that I haven't really addressed in the comments. I'm totally open book on this. Whatever it is that you're looking to ask, go ahead, fire away. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.